In this lesson, I want to discuss an important concept that I like to call the overlap principle. And the reason the overlap principle is important is because we often try to build habits and assume that everything has to go right for this habit to occur. We try to build habits that only work in some optimal condition. And if a habit is actually going to stick, it needs to be far more resilient than that. Let's look at the human body as an example. So the human body has an optimal region of blood pressure that it likes to maintain. There's this optimal zone that you want to stay in. The blood pressure doesn't want to be too high or too low. And there are a variety of different methods that the body has for sticking with this, for maintaining that optimal zone. For example, the heart can pump faster or slower. If it pumps faster, blood pressure goes up. If it pumps slower, blood pressure goes down. The veins in your body can either constrict or expand. If the veins are more narrow, then blood pressure goes up. It's a tighter zone, a tighter region. If the veins expand, then blood pressure goes down. Similarly, the kidneys, they can moderate blood pressure as well. They can either remove water from the bloodstream by processing it as urine, and that'll make blood pressure go down, or they can retain water in the bloodstream, and that'll help blood pressure go up. And these are three different methods that the body has for maintaining that optimal zone. If one of them isn't working perfectly, the other two can step in. And our habits need to have a similar structure to them. And I like to call this the overlap method because we're trying to overlap different reasons for sticking to the same behavior, different methods for maintaining the same habit. And if you can do this, if you can stick to these different strategies, then you make it much more likely that you can follow through. So let's take a practical example. Let's say you're trying to build the habit of learning a new language or studying Chinese or Spanish or French for an hour each night. Well, you could have one primary habit, and that is to talk with a coach or an instructor or a peer in that language. So you meet face to face and discuss it. But what if you have to cancel that night? Or what if, things are rushed and your schedules don't match up? What are you going to do then? How are you going to stick to that habit? Well, you could also have a backup, which is like an online language group where you can talk to somebody over the internet in that language or call them up on the phone. So that's a good backup, but what if nobody's available there? Well, then you could have a set of movies in the foreign language that you watch for that hour to expose yourself to the language. Or you could have a set of flashcards that you review during that hour. You need to have a variety of ways to achieve the same habit of practicing that language for an hour each night. And if you have a variety of options for making that habit occur, then you make it much more likely that you'll follow through rather than having the first option fall out and say, well, I guess I wasn't supposed to do that habit this time. And so what I want you to do now is click on the worksheet below, and I want you to list at least 3 ways that you can approach the same habit, that you can use the overlap principle to reinforce and make the habit more resilient. The idea here is that if a habit only occurs when conditions are optimal, when conditions are perfect, then it's not going to be a habit for very long.